Midnight Society has been clear that DEADROP is only the first game planned to take place in the universe that DEADROP takes place in, which is this alternate reality where the 80s and 90s never ended, kind of this like 80s twisted vision of this dark, gritty future. So we all know that all of us are excited for this universe. There's a lot of characters and stuff in this universe that a lot of us are already excited about, even during these early days. And there's also many of us working on Lua scripting projects, creating our own modes, and so on and so forth, and planning projects for within DEADROP themselves when the creator tools and so on come out down the road, the map editor. So one thing I got thinking about a lot was a hero shooter, whether that be a project made by the community or whatever. I'm not by any means saying that Midnight Society's next project, when that comes, should be a hero shooter. But I got thinking a lot about it, and I did an actual design document with heroes and characters that make sense both within the lore, the official Midnight Society and DEADROP lore, and then expanded stuff like my live action series, Midnight, with abilities, passives, active abilities, weapons, ultimate ability. And I had a lot of fun with it, and I wanted to roll them all out here for you guys to listen to and have fun. So let's just get going. So of course our first hero character would be Dr. Disrespect himself. You guessed it. He would be a sniper character, you know, being the best sniper ever. So I gave all these characters an active ability, a passive ability, and then an ultimate ability. And if you ever have tried to sit down and think of characters for a hero shooter or something like that from scratch, you understand that this gets very difficult to balance these characters against each other and to make them varied enough, but also different enough and similar enough to make sense. But anyway, Dr. Disrespect would of course have a sniper rifle. His active ability would be like a grappling hook, similar to like Pathfinder from Apex or Widowmaker from Overwatch. His passive was referred to as just VSM. This gives him a faster base movement speed than other characters, while his ultimate at first sounds a little bit like Widowmaker from Overwatch. You activate it and all enemy positions are highlighted on your map, just your map, not for your teammates. And your next magazine in Dr. Disrespect's sniper rifle will pierce all object walls and cover for 15 seconds. So this gives Doc the chance to actually obliterate enemies, headshot enemies through walls, through whatever cover there is on the map, and just go full-blown beast mode, cover himself in Vaseline. Maybe we should have referred to it as, I called it Eagle Eye in the document. Maybe we should have called it Vaseline. But anyway. The next character is RoboDoc, okay? So we had to have a support. We've got multiple support characters and support abilities in here. But RoboDoc is indeed a support type character. He would use a revolver shotgun inspired by that type of gun in Escape from Tarkov, actually. But his active ability, I call the lifelink heal. This is a healing pistol to use on a teammate. There's a healing pistol in Call of Duty. I haven't seen it in a while, mainly because I don't play Call of Duty anymore. But anyway, healing pistol to aim at teammates and shoot them to heal them. And then his passive is he has a slow health regen himself over time, very slow. The other characters do not have health regen. Overwatch is changing that soon, by the way. But his ultimate is called Donation. And it is a donation because he consecrates the ground beneath him, kind of in an AoE, and all teammates who stand in it will be healed by a certain amount per second over 15 seconds. And I tried to base all of these ultimate timers and stuff, make them consistent. Obviously, for balance reasons, some of them may need to be shortened or made longer, but RoboDoc is the most pure support in the game as I have designed it in the game. If the game is not a game, it's just the design document in Google Docs. But moving on. All right, next one is a fan favorite. This is Space Bob himself. I made him a melee character. He has no gun. He just used his fists. So his active ability, you know, he's got that big muscular look, that burly old dude. So it's like a ground pound or like a slam, almost like the old Doomfist ability in Overwatch, where he'd fling himself forward a little bit and slam the ground. His passive is a pulse that reveals nearby enemies on radar to prevent campers. Spicy Dingle, that one's for you. There's more Spicy Dingle to come, by the way. And his ultimate is called Enforce, since, you know, he used to work in the tower before the cleaners took his job. That's kind of how the ARG tells things. This would be he gains a temporary health boost and knocks back all enemies that he strikes for 15 seconds with his fists. Kind of think Winston's ult from Overwatch if you've played that. Just he becomes really hard to kill. Doesn't necessarily deal a ton of damage, but he just goes in and wreaks havoc and just knocks people everywhere and really disrupts the team. We're probably going to have to call that passive pulse, by the way, that reveals nearby enemies on radar Dirk Sap them. I mean, it just only makes sense. All right, the next character is Lima 1 Juliet. This is my variant and my character from Midnight, my live-action DEADROP series, which you should all go watch on this channel, by the way. It's an 18-minute short film, and we are doing a sequel, Midnight 2 Born Ruthless. Going to start filming this spring, hopefully release this summer. Anyway, he would use a magazine-fed shotgun. His active ability is called Cybernetic Eye. If you know me, you know I'm blind in my right eye. I have a glass eye. So Lima 1 Juliet has a cybernetic eye. And what it would work like is kind of like a Bloodhound scan in Apex Legends. You know, he'd activate the eye and it would, in a certain like cone shape in front of you, or whatever, reveal enemies' positions for a limited amount of time. His passive would be he just takes 10% less damage than other characters. And the ultimate is a Berserk or Enrage or something like that. You activate it and you take 50% less damage and do 30% increased damage. Those numbers may need to be tweaked, by the way. So basically, you would just you take less damage, you deal more damage, and you can just run in and start cleaning up. Obviously, this is Lima 1 Juliet we're talking about. It makes sense if you've seen Midnight, which you all should have. Next up is the Fire Penguin himself, Spicy Dingle. This guy, if you don't know him, would use an AK-47 style AR. This obviously is not in DEADROP. Some of these weapons are totally original if you haven't caught on to that. But I thought a high damage, high recoil AR would work pretty well for Spicy. But he would have his active ability would be an incendiary grenade, which could obviously be thrown on the ground to block off enemies to kind of hold them back, or they'd have to push through it and take damage. But it is, of course, going to look like a penguin. The actual grenade itself will look like a penguin. His passive ability, if you played Snapshot 5 with Spicy, you'll understand this. He has a longer slide than other characters. When he slides for longer. So he's a high movement character, and his ultimate is an anti-hack. This silences all enemy characters caught in this like zone around him when he activates it for 15 seconds. Think something like Sombra from Overwatch. I used to play a lot of Overwatch, so I pulled a lot of Overwatch into this. But anyway, that's Spicy Dingle or Fire Penguin, however you want to think about him. This next character is our first female character on the list, referred to as Viper. Yes, I know there's a Viper in Valorant who's also a female character, and they kind of share some similarities here. But Viper, inspired by Viper UGC, where we're making lots of stuff for DEADROP, including ultimately a 1v1 game called Versus Proving Grounds, but we also just published Showdown, a new DCM in DEADROP, which I truly believe is the next great DEADROP DCM. Play it with the refiner code over on all those channels. Go check our Twitter and our YouTube channel. Anyway, she uses poison-tipped throwing knives, and by throwing knives, I was kind of inspired by the light class in the finals here. Her active ability is a gas grenade. Again, similar to, same idea as the incendiary grenade a little bit, but, block off areas and hold teams back. The passive is her melee applies a poisonous damage over time to players that she strikes, and the ultimate is an anti-heal, actually. So she puts down an AoE. It's a gas, it's a yellow gas, but it doesn't do damage. It just prevents all healing in that AoE, in that yellow gas area. So she would disrupt teams with that. All right, next up is who I can only identify as Ponytail Dude. He was one of the first DEADROP characters modeled or revealed, if he even is a real character, but in the hero shooter, he is, okay? So he uses the standard assault rifle from DEADROP. His active is a simple frag grenade, his passive is a double jump, and his ultimate is he pulls out an extra gun and deals double damage for 15 seconds. I wanted Ponytail Dude to be like the most basic, like anybody can play this character and start and understand the abilities. It's just an AR, a frag grenade, double jump, 2 guns for double damage, almost like something like Soldier 76 in Overwatch. Anybody who's played Call of Duty or whatever game can jump in and play Ponytail Dude, who we're just gonna call Ponytail Dude. This next character is an original created by me. His name is Razorback. Remember this name? He uses dual straight razors as a weapon. His tactical is that he can fear a player, almost similar to like World of Warcraft warlocks or priests. You select, you'd look at one player and you could fear them, which sends them off. They lose control of their character for a few seconds and they just run in a random direction, unable to do anything. Super frustrating to fight against. His passive is his melee causes a bleed damage over time, and his ultimate is called Killing Spree. He moves faster and takes decreased damage for 15 seconds and chops up people with those dual straight razors. You can't get away from him because he's moving faster. He doesn't take less damage during this time, at least based on my initial design. He would move faster, so he'd be harder to hit, and you'd just be cutting you up with those dual straight razors. All right, next up is Custer, or Red Right Hand, from the first Midnight series on my live action DEADROP series. He uses a magnum or heavy pistol, which was actually his weapon in Midnight. If you remember, he uses it to shoot Rex, the motorcycle man. His tactical is an adrenaline, similar to DEADROP right now. When you're low on health, you would use this thing to activate the adrenaline, and you would gain a temporary health boost to avoid death. It's not a heal, it's just a temporary health boost. Also relevant to the series. Everything that I pulled from Midnight, I tried to make, make it make sense, like thematically, between their character and what happened with them or what they did in Midnight. His passive is he takes 10% less damage than other characters. He's kind of a tank type character. And his ultimate is called Red Right Hand. Again, he wears a red glove in his red right hand. Anyway, the next 6 shots from his revolver are all headshots. It's not straight up like the Cassidy where it slows down and it's just straight up. The next 6 shots you shoot are headshots. Speaking of Rex, the motorcycle man from Midnight, Rex is our next character. He would use a pistol and a knife. So a pistol in one hand and a knife in the other hand for that close encounter melee. So his active ability is just straight up like a dash, kind of like a dodge kind of mechanic where you get, quickly move to one side or forward or backward depending on your movement. His passive is the first round that he fires from any magazine in his pistol, deals bonus damage, and his ultimate ability would be a self-resurrect, something like, I don't know, inspired by the Warlock's Soul Stone in World of Warcraft, or Warlocks in the original Destiny, where you've been killed, but then if you have your ultimate, you could resurrect yourself and get back in the fight. All right, next up is a character called Gale, another original that I created. Another name to remember. She would use a silenced SMG. Thematically should be inspired by Gale from the first Sin City movie, by the way. Her active ability is a simple sprint. Her ultimate ability is an increased rate of fire for herself and teammates in an AoE area around her. So she would, activate her ultimate, and if you stand in this area around her, both her and her teammates have an increased rate of fire as well. Passive, probably something like just, a simple, faster base movement speed, sharing that trait with the Dr. Disrespect character. Next up is Officer 6133. This was a character that was also briefly in Midnight, may appear in Midnight 2. Who knows? He uses dual pistols. His active ability is a taser. They would temporarily stun enemies when they're hit by it. Their passive, kind of inspired by Bloodhound and Apex Legends, is he can see the footprints of enemy support heroes. Only enemy support characters, not all characters. The thought is he can follow these characters to try to hunt them down with those dual pistols. He's a police officer, he's a detective. That's where it's coming from thematically. And his ultimate is bottomless magazines, so he can fire as many rounds as possible from his pistols for 15 seconds without having to reload. So he can just totally go full blown like Dante from Devil May Cry and just start unleashing insane amounts of bullets and shooting as fast as he possibly can with those dual pistols. All right, next up we have a cleaner character, an unnamed cleaner character at this point. A lot of you who watch this channel know that I have wanted a cleaner with a flamethrower since, I don't know, Snapshot 5 or whatever. So anyway, we have a cleaner character with a flamethrower for a weapon. The active ability is that he marks a target and all teammates can see that target through cover for 5 seconds. So kind of like a track, they can mark one single person. His passive is kind of like a smaller, less effective version of Spicy Dingle's anti-hack ability. If this cleaner melees you, none of your abilities work for let's say 2 seconds. It's just a quick silence. So if he gets in close to you and melees you, You know, again, he's going to be trying to play close anyway with that flamethrower. That's what would happen. And the ultimate ability, I've never heard of an ability that I could think of in a hero shooter like this, which might mean this is a great idea or a terrible idea. But given that he's a cleaner and, you know, potentially not organic, we don't really know a lot about the cleaners yet. It is a sacrifice, kind of like a suicide bomber type thing. Or maybe he lights himself on fire, runs in and explodes, and then he's just dead. Period. He's dead. But if you take people with you, maybe it was worth it. And you can't be killed once you activate your ultimate. You've got a certain number of seconds to just run in and explode, and obviously people will have a chance to get away from him during that time to try to balance it out. This one is the current female character model within DEADROP, referred to as Pixel. I came up with the riot shield for her, and I'm not a huge fan of like shields and riot shields in most games, but I do feel like in hero shooters and stuff, they do work. I hate them in Call of Duty and other games like that, but I think it could work in a hero shooter, right? I don't mind them as much in like Overwatch or whatever. But riot shield is actually the weapon of choice, and her active ability has to do with that riot shield. She would throw the shield almost like Captain America style, or like a paladin tank, a protection paladin in World of Warcraft, and it will bounce off enemies. You know, if it's just one, it just hits one, but if there's like 2 or 3 in a short distance, it'll bounce between them, and it just does like a short, like 1 second like slow or 2 seconds slow to anybody it hits, and then returns to her. Obviously there's cooldowns on these active abilities. You can't just use them infinitely. And her ultimate would be to just simply slow all enemies within a certain distance around her for 15 seconds. So she's trying to get in close with that riot shield and hit people and slow them down. And if she gets in close to a whole group and activates her ultimate, they are slowed, you know, if they're within that range of her for a period of time, a maximum of 15 seconds, at least as I designed this. And obviously, if you know, if your teammate, your Pixel, is doing that, it'll really give you a chance to try to clean up those enemies while she's in there slowing them all down. Next up, we have Cassius, the current male character model in DEADROP, at least as of Snapshot 7. Got a sweet mullet. I should have named one of these abilities after the mullet, but I didn't. So he uses a double barrel shotgun with a bayonet on it, kind of inspired by the old Gears of War games. His tactical would be a charge forward, and you know, if you hit somebody with that bayonet, you can just use the close distance to get in there with that double barrel shotgun. But if you hit somebody with the bayonet, they'll also take bleed damage over time. His passive is a small self-health regen, similar to RoboDoc. And his ultimate is he pulls out a machete, and anyone he hits with this thing takes massive damage. And, you know, it really goes berserk. I hate to use that term again, although berserk is one of my favorite enemies of all time. And just starts, you know, just he's a heavy hitter, guys. He just pulls that thing out, and if he can get in between that and his active ability, that charge forward, really deals some damage. All right, our next character is referred to as just Brute. This was in the 6th episode of Midnight that this character appeared. He was the shirtless dude with the big chain that got in a fight with Lima 1 Juliet, and that chain is actually the weapon. And I was thinking that I haven't heard of seen a lot of games that use, you know, characters that just whip people with chains, and I think that's pretty unique and a pretty cool thought process. So his active ability is that he actually lassos people with that chain and pulls them towards him, or you know, or your group if you're pushing together and try to pull people in, almost like a Roadhog hook, I guess, but slightly different style. The passive is he's more of a tank character. He just takes a smaller amount of damage. He has a slight damage mitigation, maybe 10%. And then his ultimate is he spins the chain in front of him at a high speed and deflects all frontal projectiles for 7 seconds. Again, kind of going for that damage mitigation style character, that tank style character. He's whipped the chain around, and anything that's shot towards him would be deflected away. Whether or not we want to send those projectiles back towards the enemy team or just mitigate them and kind of delete them out of the air, could go either way, but both could be fun. And then finally, I took the original DEADROP ARG character, the Midnight Protocol, who's not like a humanoid, and kind of put him in the controlling the body of a Sin. And I use specific character art here, DEADROP concept art, which is not this. This is not Midnight Protocol, but it just kind of was a cool version of this model that I thought could be kind of fitting in style. So he would use an M16 like burst assault rifle, which I would love to see come to DEADROP in the long run. His active is he becomes translucent for 3 seconds, letting all projectiles pass through you. So damage avoidance kind of character. Remember, this is like kind of like an entity manipulating another robotic entity, if sins are indeed robotic, which is not 100% confirmed. You just know that they're synthetic. And then his ultimate ability, if we call it variant status, he empowers a teammate to move faster and deal extra damage for 10 seconds. Think something like the Ana ultimate in Overwatch, where she empowers a character. And, you know, if you go back in the lore, the Midnight Protocol's purpose was to choose claws that were, you know, worthy of being variants and so on and so forth. So a little lore throwback there for you. That's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you had fun with this. If you have characters or ideas for whether it be abilities or actual characters you would like to see appear in a game like this, in a mode like this, if anything were to ever exist, remember, we're not saying this is ever getting made. I just kind of had the idea, what would a hero shooter look like in the DEADROP universe? And I started running with it and planning characters that make sense in the universe and abilities and so on and so forth. So if you like certain characters, let me know in the comments who's your favorite. If you've got ideas for other heroes or characters, so on and so forth, please let me know. And I hope you enjoyed the video. We'll see you in the next one. Subscribe if you want more DEADROP Midnight Society content, and like the video if you watched all the way to the end, because if you watched all the way to the end, you must have enjoyed listening to this. So thanks, guys. We'll see you in the next video. May Reynolds out.